Hey, drivers, it's the Brandon Cruz Daily Fantasy Podcast, where I go and look at low-owned plays and strategies specifically designed for GPPs. This is a show for people who are already informed on daily fantasy sports and how these contests operate. If you have any questions related to the NFL or NASCAR that you're too embarrassed to ask your usual DFS providers, or if you can't find the answer anywhere else, give me a tweet at BrandonCruzDFS. Most importantly, take everything with a grain of salt. Use your best judgment when making entries. Additionally, if you have a gambling addiction, that's not my problem. Check your sensitive feelings at the door, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get right into it. This episode is focusing on the Xfinity Series championship race at Homestead. Now, I was very excited to go over this. I was looking forward to this weekend for a while. One, mainly because I've been up and down Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona for the past month with family emergencies, things of that nature. So I'm really back now at the end of the season. NASCAR is what I'm passionate about, making videos. My NFL stuff, I make it, but I end up making it, midway through Saturday. Stuff changes with news and all that. So half time, any video anyone makes, like Thursday, Friday, or even Saturday morning, is kind of irrelevant by Sunday morning. NASCAR is something I actually enjoy making here and there. But man, first off, they have really screwed the pooch here. Cup Series is going to be the Cup Series is going to be destroyed, man. They just destroyed the Cup Series. We're just going to focus on the Xfinity Series right here, and I'm just going to jump into what I was focusing on primarily in the truck race before fucking Alvarado just didn't even start the fucking race. If you saw my tweet, I got really mad. I'll let you guys check that out. But I just found it ridiculous that they're competing for a point place that would lock them into races next year, and they bring a bad motor, bad vehicle, all that type of stuff. I was really annoyed there. Anyway, the main battle that I would look at for the Xfinity Series right now is that the top 31 points are locked into the races. That's how it's going to be next year in 2020 when they cut the field down even further from what it is now. So top 31 points are going to be locked in based on owner points throughout the season, but this is crucial because they run off of this season's points for the first handful of races. I think it's like the first month and a half. They go off of the ownership points the previous year. So the people who are fighting for the 33rd or 31st place spot is, and I'm going to start with BJ McLeod Motorsports, number 78, that have been driven by Vinnie Miller, Matt Mills this entire year. They are 28th. 3 points behind them is NBA Motorsports, number 61, driven by Chad Fitchum this weekend. Due to the fact that they're trying to stay in the top 31 to try and get that car locked into races next year for the other team that's going to actually end up taking that number. It is absolutely crucial that Chad Fitchum does well tomorrow, finishes the race tomorrow. Same with the 35 with Joey Gaze. That is 30th, 12 points behind the number 61. In the final spot right now that locks him into all the races next year, at least at the start, is the 52 Mears Motorsports, who is David Starr. He is 8 points behind the 35 car of NBA Motorsports. 32nd is the 93 from RSR Racing, 25 points back behind the 52, and then the 66 NBA Motorsports car is 32 points behind him. Mike Harmon in the number 74 is 40 points behind NBA Motorsports number 66. Now, why is this important here? Like I said, this guarantees who is locked into next year's starting races. So if they get rained out, if they're not fast on speed, this will lock them in. Now, one thing that I don't think a lot of people thought of, and even I didn't really think about it, but if you look at how NASCAR purchased the ARCA Series and what they're doing with the K&N program or the K&N Series throughout the country next year, is that basically they're combining the ARCA Series and the K&N Series. So if you look at that, it's basically taking 3 series and combining them into one. You got the ARCA Series and you got the K&N West and East Series. All this will be combined into one series. Now, if you look on Twitter, if you look on some of the, I think it's Start and Park Racers or DNF Racers, something along those lines, and even if you go on, I think it's RacingJunk.com, you will see that a lot of teams from the ARCA Series, from the K&N Series, they are either getting out of racing or they are selling their K&N stuff and moving up, or their ARCA stuff, and they are actually going to move up a series, either into the trucks or into the Xfinity Series. Now, I think next year is going to be really interesting because of the closure, or not closure, but I mean the cancellation of the ARCA series and how these K&N divisions are actually going to be combined. Um, it's going to push more teams to try and make Truck Series races, to try and make Xfinity Series races. And I think next year might be the first time that we actually see an influx of entries of people trying to make races to where we might actually have like 6 go-or-go homers each week, or 6 guys not qualifying for each race, at least at the beginning. I imagine Daytona is going to be a clusterfuck next year because there's going to be a lot of people trying to make it. It'll probably be like probably like 43 cars trying to make the 36 or whatever it is next year in the Xfinity Series. So I think that was an unforeseen consequence of combining this. So moving on, why is this important? Chad Pitchum, 29th in points. Joey Gase, 30th in points. David Starr, number 52, 31st in points. They lock themselves in. The 93 of RSS Racing needs to pass the 52 in points through tomorrow's race to get themselves locked into every single race next year, at least the start of it. Those are the guys that I'm looking at least from a points battling perspective. Like, these guys have to race. This is where they make their season. Other than that, looking at the points, at the season-ending points, there's nothing really major. Yeah, sure. I mean, there's stuff for manufacturer for drivers, but the ownership standings is what most people would care about there. Now, moving on to the practice. Now, we actually got rained out. We only have about 13 minutes of practice. In this, or I mean like 20 minutes or whatever it was. One thing that happened is Fitchum in the number 61. As you can tell, I like NBA Motorsports in general, but Fitchum was actually running the 66 for Bobby Earnhardt, doing a shakedown run, checking how the car was feeling, and he actually had to jump out of that car and run over to his vehicle and complete a lap, because NASCAR will not let you qualify if you do not complete a lap in practice. So he just had to run over there. So I wouldn't religiously look at the speed of the 61. I think he's going to be way faster there. Also, after going to the races last weekend, TV does not do it justice. I haven't been to a NASCAR race since I started doing fantasy sports, and I think it's been 2 or 3 years since I was at Phoenix. I think the last time I went was 2016 when Stewart went. Anyway, the reason I'm saying this is because yeah, sure, you can look at the raw data. You can see that Bobby Earnhardt is running like 3 seconds slower than anybody, but it's until you physically see how much slower and how underfunded these guys are that really puts this stuff in perspective. I mean, the 66 is underperforming against the entire field. Slowest car by far in the field. Yeah, I wish I could go to more races to see how these cars are at different places. I'm not sure J.J. Yeley will end up running tomorrow. That number 38 machine is 39th in points. Best they can do is beat the 13 of NBA Motorsports. Not too sure if they're going to end up doing that, actually. Landon Castle tomorrow. This is interesting. It was confirmed, and it might change, it might not, but it is confirmed that the 89 Racers for Christ, or whatever Morgan Shepherd races under, they will run the entire Homestead race. So Landon Castle in the number 89 has secured the sponsorships, the tires, the fuel to run an entire race. Unbelievable. So Landon Castle, not just the starting park, he will run the whole race, at least from the tweets that I've seen coming from the Shepherd household. 89, Landon Castle plans on running the full race. Brian Keselowski, the brother of Brad Keselowski, is the crew chief of the number 26, driven by Colin Garrett, another guy that I'm interested in. I like him just as a random name that I don't think a lot of people are going to focus on. The people that are playing these contests right now are either diehard NASCAR fans who have followed this series the entire year, or people who are dipping their toes in since the NFL season, the NBA season's around. So it could be some new people dipping their toes in. It's hard to really look at the practice times to see what we're going to learn. Obviously, it was Reddick, Bell, Cindric, Allgaier, and Custer, your top five. But yet again, we only ran a handful of laps before we got rained out. Um, I'm not going to be too worried about this. I'm going to look at more of the qualifying speeds and more of just what their car looked like compared to other people when they qualify tomorrow. Race for the Prize actually had a really good podcast I listened to earlier in the week, and he brought up a point that I agree with, and that is I want whoever is aggressive who's going to run the top this entire race. Yes, you can make the bottom work. Yes, you are going to have to use the bottom at some point, but the guys who won it last year, how this race is going to go, one, it's not going to have any yellows. I don't expect a whole lot of cautions, if any, other than the stage breaks. So it's going to be long, green, and boring. Second, I want the driver who's going to be up by the wall the entire time. I don't want a guy running on the bottom, don't want a guy running in the middle, I don't want a guy half committing to the top. I want the guy who is running the wall the entire time. So I'm going to look back in practice. I haven't seen it right now, but I'm going to look back, see who's running the top, who is trying to make their car ready for the top. Christopher Bell tried it last year, got in the wall multiple times. Tyler Reddick did last year, did not get in the wall, won the championship. Truly out of pure luck, but either way, he won the championship. That is what we're looking for in this fantasy spectrum. Guys that are sticking out to me that I haven't already mentioned. Brandon Brown in the number 68, Will Rogers in the number 86. I think those are the main guys that I would look at. I'm not too worried about anything else. We got to see how qualifying goes. I really have no practice data to go over. Pretty much, I can just show you who completed the most amount of laps, which was the 16 of Michael Annett. Michael Annett did 16 laps. Chase Briscoe did 13 laps. Austin Cindric did 10 laps. Bell 10 laps. Everybody else from there 7, 8. 6, and so on and so forth down there. I know it's not as in-depth as it could be, but we got rained out. The only thing we have going for us today, as I'm recording this at 2 a.m. in the morning, the only thing we have going for us right now is the short practice time that we have, the top 31 in ownership points battle, and some names that are coming in that haven't been racing the whole year. That's where the advantage is going to be. If you have any questions, let me know. Tweet at me. I'll try and answer what I can. I'm off tomorrow. I wanted to make a Truck Series video. I just didn't have time. There wasn't enough turnover, so I tried to put out some stuff on Twitter. It would have worked well. Just fucking Alfredo didn't fucking start the goddamn race. But other than that, thank you guys for listening. Cup video will be out later today, and what a clusterfuck that's gonna be. But best of luck, guys, and I will talk to you later.